While not all entrepreneurs are artists, all artists are entrepreneurs. They have a product or idea to sell, and they need to approach their business as any entrepreneur would. Our guest is an accomplished, award winning photographer who recently turned her passion into a reality by making her directorial debut as a filmmaker. Oh, yeah, it's Fab Female Filmmaker Friday. Wow, that's a mouthful. Get ready to join us for a delicious conversation on the Startup Life Live show. Let's glow, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Startup Life Live show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I know what you're going through, that high level of uncertainty, those moments that are so exhilarating, and other ones where you're not, well, I like to say you're sleeping like a baby, waking up every 2 hours crying. That is the beauty of this incredible journey that you are on. And I am so grateful that you carved out time to up your founder game, because as you do better, your business will do better. And tuning into the Startup Life Live show, you're going to hear those strategies and solutions, inspirations and insights that will help you go, ooh, I know how to solve that problem now. Yay. And you will also realize that you are not alone. This is the founder journey, and nothing prepares you for this except doing it. So it's so great to hear other founders' stories. So thank you for tuning in. And how do you know whenever I post a new show? Why, you join the Startup Life Live meetup group. You can scan that QR code there or grab the links in the show notes. And this way you'll get a deep dive on all the guests that I have twice a week right here on Tuesdays and Fridays at 12 noon ET. And wherever you are, if you would click that like button, whether you're watching the replay, hi replay viewers, or you're live right now, yay, so happy you're here, or you're tuning into the podcast, please share this delicious conversation in your feeds, because there's someone out there, I promise you, who will benefit from this conversation. So your generosity is so appreciated. And if you're on YouTube and you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. That way you'll also receive an alert whenever I go live, or any of my other Andelicious moments and videos that I share on the channel. All right, so I have a few Andelicious announcements to share today. And the big one is this. Get ready. That's right. It's the 200th episode of the Startup Life Live show. Oh my gosh, you folks have really made my heart sing, tuning in to all the founders. But look who's joining us. It's Lolita Taub. And I have to tell you, Lolita really knows what she's doing, and she has an incredible background. Are you following her on Twitter? Because if you're not, it's at Lolita Taub. And, she spent 15 years in Silicon Valley learning the ropes of venture capital. And today she is the general partner of Ganas Ventures, where she invests in pre-seed and seed community-driven companies in the U.S. and Latin America with a mission of creating generational wealth and community. So for all of you, please just swing by for just a second on Tuesday, November 8th, and say hello. I'd love to see you, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping amplify diverse founder voices around the world with your participation. I also want to let you know that there is a phenomenal documentary film being made right now called Girls Just Wanna Have Funds, and you can donate at girlsjustwanna.weedidit.backslash/campaigns. Links are in the show notes. You can see the link right up here. This, women, is one of the hardest things that's happening right now. And this film is being produced and directed by the wonderful Catherine Gray and her partner. And it's going to get out to so many folks and really help raise the awareness and the consciousness of the funding opportunities that women need to have. Show us the money and give us the money, because girls just want to get funded. Okay, folks? It's so hard. That 2% number has got to be dissolved. All right, founders, let me just give you all a big founder circle hug right now, because I know what you're going through. I know how hard you're working. Please look up and ask for help. ask for that connection, reach out to another founder and find out what they may need help with, how they can help you, but just ask. We're all here in this together and we're here to help you. Ask me, ask my guests. You never know who we might know that could help you. All right. Well, speaking of guests, I get to introduce you to a phenomenal filmmaker. Now, female filmmakers are just so important in our community. And this is Skye Bergman. She's an accomplished award-winning photographer who recently made her directorial debut with Lives Well Filmed, Well Lived, a film celebrating the incredible wit, wisdom, and experiences of adults aged 75 to 100 years old. Skye's fine artwork is included in permanent collections around the world, and her commercial work has appeared on book covers and popular magazine spreads. Skye was recently named a Co-Generate Innovation Fellow, joining 15 inspiring social entrepreneurs, bringing older and younger people together to address racial and equality, climate change, social isolation, and so much more. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I can't go another second. Please join me in welcoming the one and only Skye Bergman.
Thank you for that intro, Ande. Wow, I hope I live up to the expectations now.
Well, it's just so great to have you on board, because I always tell folks, if you are doing anything artistically, you have to do it all. I mean, You're diving deep into your heart to bring this creation to life, and then you have to got to switch the hat, got to switch the camera lens, and now I have to produce it and get it out to the folks and sell it, and oh my gosh. So I am so excited to hear how you have brought your passion to the world. Tell me and tell everyone where you are hanging from today.
I am in San Luis Obispo, California, which if you've never heard of San Luis Obispo, it's halfway between LA and San Francisco, small little town on the coast, and it is absolutely beautiful. A little chilly today, but beautiful.
A little chilly. I'm in Boston, folks. A little chilly in San Luis Obispo means that you might have your little down vest on for a minute, though. I love it. It's a beautiful part of the world. I couldn't be happier that you were there. I want to remind folks who are tuning in live, first of all, thank you for swinging by and sharing your glow. But also to those founders who are tuning in, remember, this show gets thousands of replays and downloads on the podcast. So if you pop your startup or business name, one-liner, and URL into the comment threads, Skye and I will cheer you on. We'll go, what? Could you glow right here? And you never know who's tuning in and might hear it, okay? And please pop your questions and comments in, because it adds to the conversation and we all learn together. So thank you for that. I want to say a huge hello and welcome to my phenomenal community manager, Ruth Machaba. She's saying, thank you for carving out time to improve your founder game. When you do better, your business will do better. Ruth, I'm waving from Boston to Nairobi. So grateful that you're here. And hey, that's right. That's Matt Lyons, my youngest, the gamer, right there. Thank you, my precious treasure, for saying hi. And Brent Manuel. Brent, Ottawa, Canada, diverse person, loyal fan, disability is innovation. We're so grateful that you remind us, Brent, that hiring and including disabled folks is so important in all of our journeys. Okay, there's so much disabled, whether it's visible or invisible, especially our neurodiverse folks, that they can add to our businesses. So thank you. And oh my gosh, it's Marty McNabb. She says, so good to see you again, Ande Lyons, and I'm excited to see my friend Skye too. How do you know Marty?
She does show and tells, and she's amazing, and I've been on her program, and so we all help each other amplify our voices.
Absolutely. So Marty, put a one-liner and a link into the show notes. And then we have the long distance grandparent. Have learned so much from both of these incredible women. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Yay.
You really have an incredible platform, folks. The long distance grandparent, you have to go check it out. It's so great. Anyway, let's dive in to Skye's background. Skye, your journey as an artistpreneur began a while back, and every founder, you had to do what every founder does, which is bringing something to market. What did you learn when you started to bring your art to market? What was that like? Tell us a little story about your first, whether it was a photo or a piece of art that you created. What was it like to take it to market?
Well, I'm going to step back even just a moment further from that, which is that I
Okay.
was actually a business major undergrad. I took a photo class for fun my last semester of college, and I fell in love with the being in the darkroom and the image emerging from the developer. And I just decided that that's what I wanted to do with my life. And so, even though I had this undergraduate degree in finance, I ended up going on and getting my MFA in photography because I knew that I wanted to teach, and that was kind of the next route to do. And so I think, I have always learned to follow my passion, never let money get in the way of having a passionate idea. And even from the time that I was in school and thinking, okay, I have this finance degree, now what? And knowing that I really would have been so unhappy, and money is not everything. And I have never looked back. I've been very fortunate. I got into graduate school at UC Santa Barbara. I had really wonderful mentors there. My one mentor, Richard Ross, who I'm still good friends with him to this day. He always said, multiple streams of interest, multiple streams of income. And that really hit home for me. So I try to do many different things, and I think that that really also helps. So if one of them is not going well, hopefully the other is. And his other phrase that I love is life is like a Velcro. You throw it out there and you hope something sticks.
Oh
And
my
so I
God.
have always believed in this idea of really throwing out a lot of things, a lot of, to a lot of different people. And just, you get a lot of no's. Even when I was applying for my teaching job here, I think I applied for 200 jobs before I got the one yes. And I think that that's important to remember, is that it just takes one person to say yes, and that can change everything. So,
Well,
yeah.
okay, Skye, people who follow this show know that we love to amplify a guest's stitch that on a pillow moment. Okay. I have four from you right now, between the never let income get in the way of pursuing your passionate idea and purpose-filled idea to, multiple streams of interest and multiple streams of income to the Velcro comment. I mean, let me just go ahead and just say, stitch all of those on a pillow. That's going to be quite a lineup on the couch.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's good. It's so wonderful. I love them all. Oh my gosh. And I love the fact that there you were. And folks, isn't this the beauty of life, that you're there? There Skye was getting her degree in business and finance, right? That is hardcore left brain. Although I do find accounting can be quite creative. And you took a one class at the end of the 4 years, and poof, off you went, bringing
Yep.
your smarty pants, left brain to your right brain experience. But wow, that's so wonderful. Richard O is saying San Luis Obispo, great taquerias and stellar wine choices. Yay.
Absolutely.
And then Marty is saying, thanks for the shout out. Building connections, one story of stuff at a time. Thing tied show and tail, everybody. Okay. Thing tied show and tail. Go check this out. I think that is so wonderful. Okay. So you started, as you said, you applied 200 times to try to get a gig. And my gosh, that is the true persistence and tenacious journey. Talk about the photography though, because you started to create images, not just for yourself and your family and friends, but you had to take it, you were compelled to share your art, share how you knew that you wanted to bring it to the world in that way. How did you figure out how to frame it up, take it to a gallery, and then how to price it? These are really big moments for artistpreneurs as they go through bringing their art to life.
Absolutely. I think I was lucky because I had kind of, again, this multiple streams of interest, multiple streams of income. And so not only did I do fine art photography, but I also did editorial work. So I had kind of two paths, even within the photography career, and really three, because I was teaching photography as well. So in terms of galleries, I just looked at who had what galleries were representing work that I thought fit what I was doing, and sent out a lot of slides. At the time it was slides, and pricing, the galleries kind of come up with that, so I didn't have to really think about the pricing so much. And the same thing for the editorial work. When I started doing editorial work, I didn't know anyone in the business. I literally would look at what's called the masthead in a magazine and find out who the photo editor was, and spend a day calling all these photo editors, and go to New York and just meet with people cold, bring my portfolio around, and show them my work and hope for the
Sure.
best. And, you know, sometimes it took years to make connections. Sometimes it was like, wow, we have a shoot for you right away. And so I think you have to be, actually, I got this from a student of mine. I'm going to shout her out, Sarah Malley, who said, you have to be respectfully persistent. And I think that that's so true. Even now, as I'm emailing people, sometimes things will fall off the radar, and I have no problem emailing somebody back if I haven't heard from them, and just say, hey, just want to make sure this didn't go into your spam box. And I'm grateful when people do that to me, because I get
Me
so
too.
many emails. And so I think that being respectfully persistent, even at the beginning of my career, was really what really made me move forward quite a bit, because you fall off people's radar otherwise. And when you are respectful about how you continue to have that relationship, and you build a relationship, then they're more apt to
Yes.
want to hire you.
You know, Justin Moore recently shared this with me. I thought it was a great example. And that is that, you know, someone gets your email and they go, "Oh, I like that idea. I need to talk to so and so about that." Right. And then time flies by. And so your respectfully persistent nudge comes in. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I need to go talk to that person about this. Oh, because I think that'll be great for our next whatever." And then
Right.
time flies by again. And then you respectfully nudge them again. And they're like, "You know what? I'm not going to wait. I got to get this person in here." You see what I'm saying, folks? So if you frame it like that, like they're busy, they may have had, got excited, but you need to keep coming back, maybe adding a little value in the conversation. I love that. Yep. And yes, Marty's saying, thanks so much for that advice, Skye. Respectfully persistent.
Yeah.
It's
I think,
so
you know,
important.
there's one other thing that I always try and do, and I've taught my students, I've taught at the university for almost 30 years. Find out what that connection point is to somebody. So it doesn't have to be about photography. It could be about something else. Like, you know, I met somebody the other day that used to live in Philadelphia, and I was born there. And so I always try and make that personal connection point with somebody that I'm trying to have a relationship with. And I think that that also goes a long way. If all you do is talk about business, people get really bored really quickly. But if they feel like they have a commonality with you, they're much more likely to hire you for the next job, or think of you because they think of you beyond just a job relationship. It becomes more of a friendship relationship. And people want to work with people that they like. You know, you want, if you're on set doing a photo shoot, you want to be around people you like. You're going to be there for 8, 10, 15 hours a day. You need to be there with people you want to hang out with. So,
Hey,
you know,
that's
trying to bring that personal connection in as well as the business side, I think is really important.
Oh my gosh, that's so important, right, founders? I mean, you're with your team 18 hours a day as well, building, whether it's a tech or a food business. And you're right. You got to like these folks as well as, make sure that they're delivering what they wanted to. And then, pricing. I know many artistpreneurs just sit there and struggle with, is it 250? Is it 550? Is it 25 bucks? Uh, how does one come up with that decision when they're starting to move art?
Yeah, well, since I teach, I always tell my students, don't work for free, because if you work for free, unless you're working for a nonprofit or something that you really believe in, when somebody says, especially with artists, they'll say, oh, you're going to get great exposure. What I say is exposure does not pay the bills. And you need to make sure that you're making enough money to live. And people do not value what they don't pay for. I know that sounds terrible, but then when they do have a budget, they're not going to hire the free person. They're going to hire the person that charges a good amount of money because they think they're better. It's sort of like if you go to a store and you look at two items and they're the same thing, but one is like, I don't know, $5.99 and one is $4.99 or $3.99. You're wondering why, what's the difference? Is the more expensive one better? So, price yourself accordingly and think about what's it worth to you to do that particular job. And it's your time. You have to value your time. I think that artists many times don't value their time. And as a filmmaker, I've had a lot of people ask if they can show the film for free, and I have a screening fee for it. And there are certain nonprofits that I will do it for free, but most of the time people have a budget, even nonprofits. And you are like, when somebody tells me they're paying $1,000 for audiovisual to show the film, but they have no money to pay me, it's like, that, I'm sorry, but you're not valuing me as what my craft is, and the time, the 4 years that it took to make the film, you're not valuing that. And people don't see that necessarily.
Right.
So I think you have to be really careful about falling into that trap of being so excited that somebody likes your work and they want to either show it or, bring it to the world and give it exposure. But remember that you also have to be paid for what your work is. So
Oh my
look at what
gosh.
other people are doing. I
Yeah.
looked at when I was, I'll tell you just more specifically, since I had never made a film before and I had no idea how to price it. I looked at what other people were charging. I called other filmmakers and said, or emailed them and said, hey, I'm a fellow filmmaker. This is my first time. What words of wisdom can you give me? What advice? How are you doing this? I joined a really great group now, wasn't around when I first started out, called Show and Tell, for any filmmakers out there. It's a really great, just to have a sense of community.
Yeah.
So find your tribe and ask those people questions about, hey, how are you pricing things? What is the norm, so that you are not under or overpricing things and you have a better sense of where you fit into the market.
Oh my gosh, Skye, seriously, outstanding advice for everyone. In fact, I'm just going to do a quick founder journey. Do not work for free. And I know you need beta testers, you tech founders, okay? Still, make sure they have to deliver a credit card. You're not going to hit it, but it makes it a more serious endeavor and an important statement. But I love, Skye, as an artist, you're sharing, as a filmmaker, you shared with everyone how important it is to say free. And for folks who are bringing in this kind of work, knock it off with the free stuff. Unless Skye tells you, look, I'm a Rockefeller, really, and I've got bajillions behind me. Even then, you have to honor the artist's work and what they're doing, and free is not allowed. Okay.
Yay.
Oh my gosh. And of course, are you kidding, Richard? We're on 7 pillows now with Skye's comments. Richard is saying 2-side pillow. You get a lot of no's and respectfully persistent. Yeah, we're going to put that with the other 4. And Elizabeth, thank you so much for swinging by. This advice, respectfully persistent, could not have come at a better moment for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. And then a photographer. Hello, I am a photographer. Okay.
Yay.
Yay, we're cheering you on. Thank you. LinkedIn, for some reason, is not sharing your name, LinkedIn user. So I'm sorry for that. So, as you've shared so many, the bumps and things that we can run up against, right? When we're starting as an artist, all the feelings of insecurity, is it good enough? Am I, charging? That has been wonderful information. So let's move on to why you became a documentary filmmaker. What was that transition like? Did you have a dream? Were you out? Did you have like especially good espresso that morning? What happened
Well,
where you said
I had no
came?
choice. So a little bit of the background of the why that I made the film. I had an amazing grandmother who you can see back there, who was the inspiration for the film. She lived in Florida, and as you know, I'm in California, and she came out to visit me for the first time when she was 96. And for the next 4 summers, she spent the month of August with me, which if you've ever been in Florida in August, you know that it's a good time to get out of Florida. And she was an amazing cook. That was really how she shared her love, was through her cooking. And that's actually my kitchen, this photo, and of us, we've perfected the bread recipe finally. And I started filming her because I realized she never wrote a recipe down. Just like any great cook, they never write recipes down. And I started filming her because that's how I could collect her knowledge and her wisdom. And
What did you
and that,
use to film her with? Your
I
iPhone?
just had a DSLR, that at that point started shooting video. I didn't know
Yeah.
anything about sound, so my first videos are terrible. But you have to start somewhere, and then I started learning. Oh my goodness, I better have her mic'd, and I started learning as I was going. And we have a motto at the university that I teach at. It's learn by doing, and that has absolutely been my motto throughout this whole filmmaking process. Is learn by doing. So you make mistakes along the way, and then you learn and you pick yourself up and you ask somebody the next question of, how do I do this? Boy, this was a fail. How do I make it right the next time? And so my grandmother was she was just a great person to work with. I would say her, come on, grandma, with enthusiasm this time. And she would be good. And, it was terrific. So we had a blast doing that. And she was getting ready to turn 100. And I went back with her to Florida for her 100th birthday, and she was still working out at the gym. And by the way, she did not start working out until she was 80. So it was never too late to start something new, ever. And so when I went back with her, I decided to film her because, again, I was like, oh my God, she's 100 and still working out at the gym. And I thankfully had a mic on her, and I just said, hey, grandma, can you give me some words of wisdom? And she said things like, be kind and live life to the limits. And I came back from that trip and I was looking at approaching 50, which is a half century mark. I think that's a big mark in anyone's life. And here was my grandmother, who was 100 and an amazing role model. And I just wasn't seeing those role models out there in the world of older adults that were doing amazing things, that were vital and wanted to learn something new every day. And I thought, I need to find other people out there like her, because I know they're there and I want to find them and start interviewing them.
Yeah, and start
And
changing
yeah,
the indoctrination of what
changing
aging
that
is supposed
right.
to
Change the
look like.
narrative. Exactly. I wanted to change the narrative. And so I sent out an email blast to my friends, family, and all the alum that I've taught over the years that I've been at the university. And I said, here's this 1-minute clip of my grandmother. And if you have somebody in your life that's as inspiring as she is to me, then please nominate them for this project. I didn't know I was going to do a film. And I was inundated by heartwarming nominations. And I spent the next 4 years interviewing 40 people with a collective life experience of 3,000 years. And at some point along that journey, I realized I need to make a film, and why I thought I could do that, having never done it before. But, I just realized that it needed to be put into a film. And so I always have the philosophy of, instead of saying why, say why not, and follow your passion, follow, the things that you listen to, that little inner voice inside you, and follow that. And so that took me on the journey of making this my first film,
I
because I
am
had
so
never even done video before I did the video of my grandmother cooking. So
Okay, folks, take that in. Hadn't even done video. And, I know many founders are like, yeah, tell me about it. I've never done ABC through Z of what I'm doing in the founder seat. And I'm just going to say bravo to all of you. So we'd like to share with you guys a 2-minute trailer of Skye's movie, Lives Well Lived, award-winning movie here. Just to give you a flavor, because I'm going to dive deep into how'd you figure that out? And how'd you know how to do that? Given that you'd had no experience. So hang in there while I go ahead. I'm going to add this to the stream. I'm going to give it a full stream. I'm going to start it right now and enjoy. I'll see you on the other side of the 2 minutes, everyone.
My definition of a life well lived.
That's a really interesting question.
I mean, I just lived my life one day at a time, and I did everything the way I thought I should do it. And I don't know what brought me this far. Only God knows. Maybe I still have something to do.
Life plays with you, doesn't it? You have to take it, and you have to battle it.
We all had to wear these around our necks from Vienna, and I was standing there trying to be very brave.
We were taken out of our homes. We had to leave everything, and we could only take what we could carry.
The whole civil rights movement was a big thing for me. I would be on the picket lines all the time.
An Indian chief once said, "You will be remembered by the tracks you leave behind."
The reason we had 9 kids is that I had an oversexed Italian wife who couldn't keep her hands off me. And since I never get headaches, I couldn't say no. My wife passed away 22 years ago. I am still married and always will be married.
My friends, they said, oh, I'm getting too old. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I said, oh, free with that. If you say, I can't do it, then you won't be able to do it. Just go out and do it.
It's not your numerical age, it's your biological age. So think young, act young, feel young, forget the number.
Oh my gosh, I get tears in my eyes every single time I watch that. I've watched it a dozen times at least already. What a beautiful piece of art.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a really, I mean, what a gift to be able to have made that film and take that 4 years. We often don't take the time to really listen to people. And I feel so lucky that that was my gift, was that I was able to take 4 years to really put all the devices away and just listen and collect stories. And my life has been forever changed as a result.
Oh my gosh. So what year was that when you started this journey? And folks,
Yeah,
you
that was
can
about
visit
10 years ago.
Yeah, you can visit lives hyphen, as we have in the thing going by there, lives-well-lived.com. I'm sorry, what year was that?
That was about 10 years ago. So yeah, so it's been quite a journey going forward and getting the film out there in the world for sure.
Oh my gosh. So let's start off with, like, where do you begin? I mean, you had done this video with Mom, and then you start to think, wow, I know there are more stories out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, how do you obtain the skills? It's one thing to go and do all this great filming. How did you know you were doing great filming? How did you know to get the boom thing with the audio thing or the mic thing and what kind of
Yeah.
camera to,
I didn't know. And I think that it's, again, having that passion and knowing that this is what I need to do, and then finding other people out there that are doing it better than you're doing it, and being very kind and asking for help. And I think that that's something that a lot of people are hesitant to say, I don't know how to do this. Can I ask for help? We don't want to show our cards and say that we don't know how to do something. But in fact, I think people really respect that when I would reach out to people and be very specific about things that I really loved that they were doing. It wasn't just a blank email that I was sending out to 100 people. It was a very specific email or connection point, and say, I love this A, B, and C thing that you're doing. I'm a new, documentary filmmaker. And do you have 5 or 10 minutes to chat with me on the phone or Zoom or whatever? And I know that I get those calls now, and I am very happy to give back. I mean, I think that people, when they can feel your sincerity and they know what you're looking for, and they know that you really have looked at what they're doing, and you're passionate about what you are doing, they're happy to help. So some people won't ever email you back, but some people will surprise you. I mean, I've had people that I was shocked I got an email back from, and have become good friends. And you never know. So you have to be courageous, I think, and overcome. Well, everybody that's a startup entrepreneur is courageous, because you're already putting yourself out there in a different kind of way. But I think being courageous and saying, I don't know how to do something and I need help. I think that that's something that we have to learn a little bit, but it's a gift when you do learn how to do that.
Skye, I'm having an Andy-licious moment. As you heard me say in the opening, opening founder hug moments, asking is so important. Folks, take notes on that one, right? And how Skye just went and she asked, may I have 5 or 10 minutes? How did you know to do that? What did you do here? What did you do there? It's reciprocity, because you may not be able to help that person in return, but you're going to pass it forward. Mm-hmm. So that beautiful energy of giving and giving and giving has a cycle and a big ripple effect. So thank you for sharing that amazing advice. And so as far as, and folks, this is why I'm always amazed by any filmmaker, right? To me, the extreme sports side of entrepreneurship because they have to hire the talent, all the parts and pieces for the film, create the film, right? And then they've got to edit the film and make sure it sounds and looks and feels just right, all the fonts, all the colors. Oh my God, my head hurts. And then they have to launch the film and promote the film and sell and license the film. Like, am I missing anything?
No, I think you got it all. And what I always tell filmmakers when they reach out is that as much time, energy, and money as you spent making the film, you should count on twice that to get it out there in the world. Because I think the sad thing is if people create art or they create a film and then they don't take the time to promote it and get it out there in the world, it's fine if you want to do it for yourself. But I do think that, you know, part of what we do as artists is, at least for me, I'm a storyteller, and I want to share that with the world. I don't want to just collect those stories for myself. I want that to have an impact in the world. And so it has taken, I mean, I would imagine twice as much time getting the film out there in the world as I did actually making the film. And now I'm making other films. So I'm trying to juggle those both things at the same time. But it's really important to take that time to get it out there in the world.
That's right. Because it has such an important message to say. So really amplifying, getting other folks to amplify, doing what Skye's doing, coming on my show and so many other podcasts, getting the word out so that it can, you know, have its soul journey, right? Its own experience of getting the film out there. And how did you fund your film? Because again, this is something all founders have to figure out too. How do I capitalize this? Am I breaking into the 401k? Am I doing crowdfunding? You know, Seed and Spark is it Spark and Seed? Seed and Spark is a great crowdfunding platform for filmmakers. How did you do it?
Well, I went a completely non-traditional route, which is I at first started applying for grants, and I was spending so much time applying for grants that I wasn't working on the film. And I realized that was not the route I wanted to go. And I am lucky that I have a big house and I had extra rooms in my house, and I started renting out rooms in my house through Airbnb. And I basically funded my film by renting out rooms in my house through Airbnb. I made sure everyone that worked on my film was paid, from the student assistants to the editor to whoever. Everyone was paid that was working on my film. That was something that as an artist, you know, I talked about not working for free, and I certainly didn't want to ask other people to work for me for free. So I made sure everybody was paid very fairly. And to do that, I rented out rooms in my house. And so I think, you know, there's always a way to make things happen if you really want to. You can get creative about how you do things. And for me, that was renting out rooms in my house.
Skye, thank you for honoring the paid support. And founders, you know, I have a thing about this. You know, internships are so important. If you've got a substantial, sustainable, and profitable business, you can have the time to bring an intern on and get them on board. If the intern has experience, then I'm okay with that. But more importantly, do not look at internship or anybody you're bringing on as free help to help get your cause out in the world. You need to honor them, like Skye just said, and pay them. And I love how you, use that creative opportunity. Okay, Airbnb, thanks for helping out the economy here. You're going to help my bottom line a big time. I'm going to be charging. And then the people who are coming to visit are going to be like, wow, I'm staying at a home of a filmmaker.
Well, and I would tell people that they were helping to fund this film. And I think that was kind of a nice thing. People felt good about that. One of my best connections came, this guy stayed at my house, Keith Oshwat, who started this company called Show and Tell. But at the time, he had just finished a film called Age of Champions, which was all about the Senior Olympics. He was one of the first Airbnb guests that I had. And
did you know this about him before he ran?
I did not. And we met. He came here for a wedding. We have become good friends. He was so instrumental early on because I didn't know anything about like fiscal sponsorship, and I would call Keith up, and he was the most kind-hearted person and would answer my emails and tell, because he had been there. He had done it right before me. Our films were similar enough and the same genre. And we obviously shared that passion. And so, the other thing about doing Airbnb was, in addition to making money, I met amazing people who some of which were able to help me along the way. And I think that's the other thing. Don't be afraid to tell people your story, because you never know what random person might help you? I mean, I had, they did an article here in the local paper very early on in the process of me doing this project. And it was in this Sunday paper. And I got a call from this guy who owned this company called USL. It's like a competitor to Dolby Sound. And he said, I love what you're doing. I want to help you. Please come and meet me at my company. It turned out he had a screening room, and he allowed me to hook up my laptop to screen my film and color correct everything and do the sound, because the sound was all 5-in-1, you know. And so I didn't have to pay a colorist or a sound editor. I was able to do that. So, you know, just putting it out there, I think sometimes, and being open to like this weird, wacky phone call that came in of this guy that says, I have this company and I want to help you. And I'm like, okay, let me check it out. You know, again, I follow every lead. Some of them lead to dead ends, but some of them open doors that you could never have imagined.
Absolutely.
And so I think that that's where, you know, I was thinking about it this morning. It's one of the things that I think is different about the way that I operated versus some other people is that I follow up. And so if you get an email from somebody, sometimes it does, you know, end up in the inbox and sliding down. I really try and follow up with everyone that reaches out to me, because you never know when that one person is going to really make a difference. And so following every lead and being respectfully persistent, and being open to the opportunities that may arise that you would never have thought of. I think those are the things that have really helped me along the way to getting this film out there in the world.
So many delicious moments here. This is beautiful. And this is why I tell everybody, you know, suit up and show up, even if it's a Zoom event. If there's a way to share your LinkedIn and connect with people, show up, because yes, the answer is always no unless you ask, but it's also always no if you don't show up, if you don't follow up, if you don't put your story out there, like on the Startup Life Live show or other podcasts that are there to amplify your work, or do a story with the local people. Doesn't ever have to be perfect, everybody. It's just being out there and making it happen. So, you know, so the film got officially launched when?
Well, we were in the film festival circuit in 2018, and then in theaters in 2018, 2019. And then I did a lot of community and educational screenings, and it started airing on PBS a year ago, September. So it's been out for quite a while, but you know, we're doing a lot of intergenerational work with the film now, working with high schools and universities across the country, where we show the film to students and older adults. And then I had like 20 questions that I asked everyone the same questions as a starting point. And we use that, we give that to the students and the older adults to use to start a dialogue back and forth, and then do a big wrap party at the end. I just did a big photo shoot of the 40 groups that are working here locally at Cal Poly State University, where I teach. And it's so wonderful to see those connections that happen. Yes. And so the film has taken on a whole nother life with these intergenerational projects.
And before we talk about that, though, I want to know, how did it get on PBS?
How did it get on PBS? That's a good question. It's, you know, there are many different routes that you can get on PBS. Mine was through something called PBS Plus, where you apply, and if they accept you, then you're good to go. And so it was a process. It took a couple of years for that to happen. But I was respectfully persistent and kept pushing. And then you have the way that I got on, you were able to get sponsors. So PBS does not pay you, but you get sponsors to come on board. Sure. Those little spots at the beginning of a PBS program that says this program is
brought to you by.
Yeah. And that's how, so I had Quaker Oats, Belmont Village Senior Living, and Storyfile were my 3 sponsors. That took a while to get those on board, because it was a pandemic when all that happened, and people were not so eager to sponsor things. So it just took a while, and you know, you have to be patient sometimes. And also we delayed the airing on PBS by a year because it didn't feel like the right time. And so I think timing is everything, and having patience is really important as well. And knowing, you know, sometimes you have to say no to certain things so that you can say yes to other things. And I think knowing how that feels, I had a distributor who really early on, after we premiered at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, which is a big deal. And I had a distributor email me and say, oh, I want to pick up your film and distribute it. but his deal was terrible. And I think that, I had to say no to that. And as a first time filmmaker, you're like so excited. Somebody actually wants, a distributor says they want to distribute your film, but be really careful about what you sign. And I decided to keep a lot more control of my film. I worked with a lovely distributor, Shadow Distribution, who all they wanted were the rights to distribute it in theaters, and I could hold on to all the other rights. And so I was able to do all these community and educational screenings, which were wonderful. And I was able to keep control of the film. And I think that it's a lot more work on my end, but I'm going to be more passionate about my film than anyone else. So I can promote it in a way that no other distributor is going to be able to promote it. And I think that that's really important is, sometimes people want a magic bullet and they want to hire somebody to like do all the work, but then they're disappointed when it doesn't happen. And so you really have to stay on top of it. And you have to, if it's your passion project, you want to maintain control and hire good people to work with.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. We've got a lot of comments coming up, folks. Marty saying, you amaze me, Skye. Timing is everything. Really, Marty, I would say we have probably 12 stitch that on a pillows, at least. Maybe we'll have 20 by the time we're done with Skye today, because she's just had one wonderful piece of advice after another. Thank you for the flowers and the hearts, Jim Brew. You're
Thank
great. And the long distance grandparent says, I'm learning about the importance of saying no so I can say yes to other things and also to opportunities that don't align with my values. Folks,
Absolutely.
I know how hard it is because you got to have oxygen into your business. But boy, if it's not aligned, I cannot tell you how many businesses I know that have closed down because of who's on the cap table, or in your case, who would be sponsoring or who would be distributing. Just say no. And Elizabeth, thank you. Startup Life Live Show. Happy to be here. Thanks for hosting. Love Skye and her work. So do I. I really do. I, met Skye just about a month or so ago because we were with Diana Place on this wonderful storytelling event for folks, over 50 and finding new life and love in life. And then Brent, of course, we always love this about Brent. He's always asking, how diverse is your film crew? Who have you brought in? Talk a little bit about that.
So I can tell you that we have a very diverse film crew. And Brent, I want to let you know that it was very important for me to have the film accessible to everyone. So it's subtitled in 6 languages. It's captioned for anyone that's hearing impaired. And there's also audio descriptions for anyone that's visually impaired.
Right.
So that was something that I didn't even know about, the audio descriptions. And that became really important. I wanted to, and actually on PBS, it's Spanish, it's dubbed in Spanish as well. So we really are trying to make the film very accessible. And in terms of my diverse crew, I had an African-American, I had a Latina, I have to say mostly women, but a couple of men who worked with me. But we definitely very important to have a very diverse crew and also to have diverse subjects. So in the film, for those of you that haven't seen it, when I decided it was going to be a feature film, I sought out, for example, somebody who could tell the story of being interned during World War II, who was Japanese American. Right. And I had already interviewed Blanche Brown, who's African American, who talks about civil rights and what that meant to her, and a Latino Filipino woman, Rosa Albano Ballestero, who talked about what it was like to go to school and not knowing English until she went to school. And now she teaches English as a second language, even though she's in her 80s. She goes at 7-something in the morning every day to teach English as a second language because that was so important to her. And so I think that was definitely something that was very important to me, was to know that diverse, to think about that diverse, not only crew, but also who is being included in the film.
That's right. It is key. And folks, you can make it part of your initiative from day one. I don't like it to hear it. We'll get to it as soon as we get up and running. No, always think about how diverse and inclusive and equitable your culture, your team, your business is from the moment you get it, LLC'd or subchapter S inked, whatever. Hey, Anna, she's saying it's a wonderful movie. Looks great. Can I watch this film for free somewhere?
So if you are a PBS member, you can. It's on PBS Passport. Otherwise, it's a nominal fee on Amazon and iTunes to rent it.
Okay, great. Remember, and Anna, really, whatever it is, $5.99, $10.99, $29.90, you're helping artists, you're helping someone, and it's very honoring to pay for our films from indie film folks. So, but great question, Anne. I really appreciate that about you so much for asking it. So let's talk about something else you're doing. I mean, like, my gosh, this whole cogeneration project that you have, I'll bring up an image so folks can see what this is all about. Oh, look at the hugs and everybody. Oh my gosh. Talk a little bit about this, because you've just joined a fellowship to help bring the elder generation together with the younger generation.
Yeah, so that project, those images were from the Lives Well Lived project that I've been doing with universities and high schools. And here locally, I've been able to go and photograph when we have a big photo shoot day. Like I said, that was just 2 days ago. And so I'm still recuperating from my big photo shoot, but it's so wonderful to see the connections that are made. And I think that it's, that is a really important part of what is happening with this, with this project and the reach that it has beyond just the film. And so the next sort of thing that I'm doing, that I'm working with the Co-Generate Fellowship, is that here in San Luis Obispo, the League of Women Voters is going into high schools to talk to high school seniors about the importance of voting and why one vote really matters, and to encourage them to register or pre-register to vote. And so that's been the next project that I'm doing, that's bringing generations together. And I have a website called Forever Voters and a short film about that and ways that people can register to vote, and really to have that generation have their voice heard. I think that's super important. And it's just wonderful when the women and men from the League of Women Voters goes into the schools and talks to the students. It's really the first time that the students feel like they're being taken seriously as an adult, because they're being talked to by people that are not their relatives, that are not a teacher. And it's just so heartwarming. It's a wonderful thing. I think the more that we can do to bring generations together, the more that we can overcome the stereotypes of ageism. And I feel like we're doing that one story and one connection at a time. It's like any other ism. When you know somebody from that other group, it's hard to have a stereotype about them. And so through the Lives Well Lived project, where we get these students to meet for a quarter or semester and with the older adults and really get to know each other, what they find is that they have far more in common than their differences, and that they can learn so much from each other. And that goes in both directions. I think it's really important to remember that it really works in both directions. And just a really, if we have a moment, a really quick story about what inspired me really to do this. I grew up in a home that was 4 generations, my great grandmother, my grandmother, my mom, and me. So we had 4 generations in our house, but I realized that not everybody has that. And how lucky I was. I don't think I realized it when I was growing up, because you never realize that when you're living in it. But looking back and reflecting back on that time, I realized how lucky I was. And that was made even more poignant when I did an interview, one of my first interviews that I did. I always tried to bring students with me so that they could learn the tricks of the trade, so to speak. And I had this student, James, who went with me on the interview with Lucky Louie, who in the trailer was the one that said the reason that they had 9 kids is they had an oversexed Italian wife who couldn't keep her hands off of him. And he had one line after the next. I mean, he's great. I loved him. He was a pediatrician, and he would say about being what the best advice he would give parents about kids was, you feed them at one end, you wipe them at the other, and you love them in between. I mean, he had all these amazing one-liners. And so we were finished with the interview, and James and I were having lunch together after the interview. And James said to me in all seriousness, "Wow, I didn't know that older people could talk so much." And I was kind of taken aback, because of course I grew up with older people in my life, and all we were Italian, so all we did was talk, and especially around the dinner table. And so I said to James, "Well, don't you have an older adult in your life?" And he said, "Well, I have a grandfather, but we really don't see each other that much." And it was right around Thanksgiving, and he was going to see his grandfather for Thanksgiving. And I said to him, "I want you to take these questions that we just asked Lucky Louie, and I want you to ask them of your grandfather." And I said, "I'm your teacher. This is your homework, and you need to do this before you come back and see me the next time." And he did that, and he came back from that Thanksgiving break, and he was grinning from ear to ear. And he and his grandfather had the best conversation they'd ever had. I don't think either one of them knew how to get that conversation going. And to have these questions as a starting point was the thing that opened the floodgates for them. And,
Yes.
what a wonderful gift that was. And I think we often don't think about the people in our lives until it's too late sometimes. And so, use the questions. They're on my website, on the Take Action part of the website. You can download the discussion guide and just use those questions to ask your loved
Excellent.
ones. Or if you are the elder in your family, maybe just answer those questions and leave them for your kids, your grandkids, your loved ones. And it's getting to be around Thanksgiving time, so it's kind of perfect for this, where maybe watch the film together and then use those questions to have a conversation. Because the biggest regret that people had when I asked them, the 40 people in my film, was not asking a question of somebody that had passed away. And so you don't want to leave those things hanging on the table. And it's such a gift for you and for them to ask these questions and to learn from them.
It's so important. I'm just going to do a shout out to Nancy J, our dear friend who, intergenerational, amazing. And she taught, one of our kids how to yodel. And which he still gets accolades for as a young adult man now, right? And you just never know the stories that you are going, the gifts, or something you're going to learn that you never even thought about, and that conversation. But also, again, as the elders, what we can learn from our younger generation and creating that wonderful, wonderful connection. So good. Anna, thank you. Great words. She says, we need to try to find a way to talk until too late. Yeah, we do. We do. And it's so important that we make sure that we have the words. And so you have the actual questions for folks to ask, which is great. And, that's not easy, because some people will be like, well, what am I going to ask about? I recently got a book because I was at an event, Skye. I thought I had it around me here. About conversations and, how to, have these quite interesting things. So I was at sort of not a networking event, but a celebratory event of a local startup community organization here. And we had to just say our name, what we did, and the first rock concert the first concert we ever went to. It was just, it really broke the ice and it was lovely. And so having the actual thoughtful questions to ask, to go back and forth with, makes it so helpful. Thank you, long distance grandparent. So good. She has to go. Thanks, Skye and Ande. That our pleasure to share this great conversation. So now, this has been everybody remember, the overnight success usually is 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
But what does success look like for you, Skye? Where are you putting all of this for you, where you go, I feel great? And is it a feeling? Is it an outcome? Talk a little bit about that.
I think that when I get an email or hear from somebody that they've seen the film, that they've participated in one of these intergenerational projects, and what a difference it has made in their life, that to me is success. And it's not monetary at all. It's really those stories that I hear and read in my emails that just warms my heart and keeps me going. I think that's where success is for me.
And how has this journey as a filmmaker served you? Because you came in raw, you came in empty of any preconceived notions at all of how it was supposed to look, how it was supposed to be. And so, how has this journey changed you and shifted you? You talked a little bit about it during our conversation, but sort of in looking over the last 10 years, who you are today, how has it changed you? And also as a teacher, how has it changed you?
Well, I think that, it's really not so much being a filmmaker, but listening to the words of wisdom of the 40 people that I interviewed. And I think that they all had three things really that were in common. The first was that they all had a sense of purpose. And I think the other thing is that our sense of purpose can change over time, as it has with me. I mean, now I'm this filmmaker wanting to share stories of different people. And I think that, that's really important no matter what age you are, to have that sense of purpose. I think the second thing that they all had was a good sense of community, and it didn't necessarily have to be family. It could be friends, but they weren't isolated. Even during the time of the pandemic, they had groups that they would meet with, and, they felt connected to something bigger than just themselves. And I think lastly, Evie Justison talked about reading Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And what she got from it is that there are many times in our life where we can't control the things that are happening around us, but what we can control is our attitude about how we deal with those things. And for me, that has been so important in sort of reframing things many times and looking at life in a different way. So, for example, the pandemic is something that we all went through. None of us could change that, but the way that we could look at it and reframe our way of being through it, I think really some people fared better than others because of attitude. And I think that, believe me, there's some people that just are health issues and, that would really hit them hard. I totally understand that. But I think I look at my dad who recently passed away, but up until then he had a stroke 10 years ago, and that left him in a wheelchair, and he was still a practicing geriatric physician, even from a wheelchair. And he was far more grateful for the things that he had than the things that he didn't have. Yeah. And what a great role model to say, okay, well, I can still practice medicine and I can still do this. And he practiced up until the day that he died. And I think that was his sense of purpose. And I think that I'm lucky that I've had some really good
role models
in my life. Yeah. I mean, I've had my mom who sailed on a boat for 20 years and just sold everything. And at 50 went and sailed for 20 years. And instead of saying why, said why not, and do something totally different. So, I am lucky to have really good role models to live my life by.
Well, I know I'm definitely grateful. Everybody knows I'm on Route 66. Where is it behind me? Right here. That you are reframing this generation, right? This, not just generation, but what happens for folks when they turn a certain age. As the one woman said in the trailer, it's not biological, it's your state of mind.
Absolutely.
And so, it's how we need to stop limiting and caging people, folks, by their age, because we have in our head, because advertising and the Industrial Revolution told us that, well, when you're 65, you're out to pasture and you're going to be gray and hunched over and you're done, move someplace warm and just live out your days. No, there's so much more to give and to live as you age. And aging is a gift, folks. The fact I'm sure those tuning in, someone who didn't make it past the age of 50. And so to be here and to be able to give so much more, it's amazing. Marty says, I spend a lot of time on Route 62. Anyway, thank you so much. You've given us great calls to action, what we can do, how we can support your movie, and, the screening possibilities, where to find you, where to stay connected with you. Everything's going to be in the show notes, folks. What final thoughts would you like to share before I pop you into the green room?
I just would say thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. This was really a lot of fun. And follow your passion, follow your dreams. You never know where they will lead you, but follow that little voice inside.
Oh, thank you so, so much. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for carving out time to share your story and your Fab Female Filmmaker Friday deliciousness with us today. I'm so grateful for your time and your presence, Skye.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. So anyways, folks, I swear, seriously, we have over 20 Stitch That on a Pillow moments with Skye. She just kept inspiring us again and again and again. I may have to collect them all and put them into the show notes as well. But I'm so grateful for her time with us. And yes, Richard, she just gave us everything we needed. Richard's clapping away. And Richard, I saw your comment earlier, nerd note, which was color correcting on your laptop. His mind is blown over that. So that's great. So folks, as you know, the next episode, Tuesday, November 8th, this is it. This is it right here, the 200th episode. Please just come by and say hi. But if you can stick around, we're going to be celebrating it with the one and only favorite in the startup community is the phenomenal Lolita Taub. And I just want to say again, this is a woman, as she says, underestimated Mexican-American, first-generation daughter of immigrants who has gone on and done remarkable things. And she is so generous. With 15 years working within the Silicon Valley ecosystem, she has accomplished over 70 million in sales and made 90 plus investments as an angel investor. She's a scout at Lightspeed Venture Partners and a VC at Backstage Capital and the Community Fund. We call her LAS, Lolita as a Service, and she invests in pre-seed and seed community-driven companies in the U.S. and Latin America with a mission of creating generational wealth in community. It's going to be a great conversation. Come by and say hi, will ya? Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for adding your glow to the show and, helping us amplify diverse founder voices. Until next time, let's dance again. And until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Cheers.